Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Get ready for an episode unlike anything you've ever seen. A raw, electrifying shot of inspiration straight to the soul. Tonight, we bring you Adrianne Fekete, not just the award-winning author of Rockstar Rising, but a trailblazer who redefined what it means to own your story and build your empire from rock bottom up. Adrianne is the ultimate disruptor, North America's first female private investigator turned 8 times founder and viral content architect, working with the world's biggest brands, yet never asking for permission to lead. She built legendary businesses by stepping into rooms that weren't made for her, transforming adversity into authority, and empowering women around the globe to rise fearlessly, relentlessly, and absolutely unbreakable. If you're tired of playing small, waiting your turn, or hiding your scars, this episode will hand you the microphone. You're not selling safe advice. We're building emotional momentum. Adrianne's stories shatter stereotypes, spark movements, and make viewers feel what it's like to own every part of their legend. This is your front row ticket to the wild ride of reinvention, resilience, and real talk. Rockstar Rising, because tonight you rise too. Adrianne, welcome to Empowered.
Hello, Elizabeth. Wow, I love the intros. So amazing to be with you tonight.
Well, you're pretty super amazing too. So the intro matches exactly who you are. So let's just jump right in because I'm super, super excited. What was the greatest turning point in your journey from private investigator to 8 times founder and best-selling author? And how did it shape your Rockstar Rising outlook?
Ooh, great question. I'm going to be honest with you. It was the incredible humans that I was able to serve and seeing such an incredible rise of resilience and dealing with things that the normal people like yourself and I might not necessarily deal with. They did it with such grace and such grit, and they continue to move forward regardless of the situations that they were in. And so it was really a collective of women over the last 2 decades that kept needing this space and they needed to belong. And, I kept getting that, tap on the shoulder. And when you don't listen to the universe, usually the universe comes back and will tap again and say, this is your calling. And I'm so incredibly fortunate to be able to meet women like yourself and our community of empowered, strong women that still, I have women that speak in front of 250,000 people that still need that belonging and the confidence. So that's really where my passion came from, is serving others.
I love it. I love it. And I love the community. So in a world that often tries to put women in boxes, because we both know that this happens often, how do you define the difference between self-help and self-leadership?
Love that. Well, I call it self-leadership because it is really for thyself. What's good for you is not going to be good for the next person and won't necessarily serve me. Those who know me know that, at best, I don't fit into any box, and I don't think any woman or human actually should. I think you should really beat to your own drum. I always like to joke and say I'm circling the perimeter at best. If you've got something super cool going on and interesting, that's what I'm doing. But the difference for me really is customizing and listening to what you need. Self care and self leadership to me sort of go hand in hand. And it's going to depend on your chapter, it's going to depend on your situation and your season. And for me and for most, it's ever changing. So embrace the growth, embrace being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
So just before we go to break, quickly, how did your experiences in male-dominated fields influence the creation of your signature Rockstar Rising framework? And we can talk about this after the break as well.
Let's definitely chat about this after the break. It goes back to just doing what you love and loving what you do. I don't think I've always been drawn to different industries that were male dominated, but I never let that become an obstacle or stop me from doing what I loved. And I just found a way through and around.
Okay, so don't go away. We'll be right back with more Rockstar Rising and Adrianne Fekete. So please stay tuned. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today we're discussing Rockstar Rising, how to turn resilience into your superpower. And Adrianne, before we went to the break, we were talking about experiences in male-dominated fields because let's face it, all the fields are male-dominated. So please, let's talk about your Rockstar Rising signature framework.
I would love to. Thank you for that, Elizabeth. I have to say that I give a lot of credit to my father, who most people, if you've read my book, you'll know he was my hero. So, gentlemen, if you're listening to this, how you parent your daughters really, really matters. I'm also huge on allyship for that and many other reasons, but he really never said, well, you can't do that because you're a girl. And it's funny because a lot of my friends would be baking, muffins or doing whatever. And I was out building fences and dog houses and whatever. And so that goes back to sort of my short answer, which is do what you love and love what you do. Don't, I always also say, regardless of gender, it doesn't matter if it's male dominated or not. Women create, we create life, we create greatness. We're here and we're not going anywhere. So continue living your dream and don't let anything stop you. Definitely not gender.
And we all go
And
through a lot of adversity as well, right? So can you just share a story where adversity directly became the setup for your greatest rise? Because we all need to know that story.
well, unfortunately or fortunately, I always love when I go through the storm because I know on the other side of a storm is always a rainbow. And for those who have heard me talk, I talk a lot about that's the only place I've ever grown and most ever grow is through adversity. And so I would say the biggest one for me really was when I became a private investigator. And again, unbeknownst to me, I didn't do it because it was a male dominated industry. I was incredibly interested by the industry. And it wasn't until honestly 6 or 7 years into it where I started getting the awards and accolades as first female private investigator in North America. And it never dawned on me, but I was sort of, sometimes I'll go through, let's say, LinkedIn, and I saw something with Arlene Dickinson that it was only 55 years ago that women were allowed to have their own bank account. And I was stunned by that. And so that for me going into that male dominated space, I was very unwelcomed. I had no mentors, nobody that wanted to have anything to do with me, to be able to learn and grow within an industry that desperately needed women. And so I was able to shape and change a lot of that industry. And I'm very proud of that for many women who have recently come into that field. But I really do feel that regardless of what you're doing and how you're doing it, if you're doing it for the right reasons and you're coming at it with purpose and passion, I don't feel like you could ever go wrong.
I love that. And with that comes confidence. And a lot of women that I talk to, especially just outside of university, they'll say, how do you build confidence? And you say
Mm.
confidence isn't born, it's built. What habits or mindsets help women build unshakable confidence when everything else just feels so uncertain?
The number one thing is believe in yourself because even when people didn't believe in me, and I mean family, friends, partners, whatever the case may be, I always knew I could do it and I always knew I could do it well. Now, that didn't mean I was perfect and it didn't mean I didn't have to zig or zag or pivot, but I had this belief in myself. And it's something that sounds so simple for people to do, but really it is having that belief system. Something that's really big for me today, and I wish I had yesterday, was a core of Front Row Sisters, which is our community. And I have some beautiful souls that just continue to cheer me on, regardless of what I decide or what shenanigans I come up with next. They're like, we know you're going to do it. So we're here cheering you on. And if it flops and if it fails, and I've had many failures, they still continue to be there for me. And being an entrepreneur is a very lonely space. So I feel that women, doesn't matter if you're C-suite, CEO, founder, entrepreneur, whatever the case may be, or you're staying at home and raising children or fur babies, you do need that community.
I agree with you. We need the community, and we actually do need to fail in order to build upon that foundation for our success. And I think it's important. I love the fact that you said that you failed. We've all failed. We've all failed, but we all got up, brushed ourselves off, and moved on. We are talking
And
to Adrianne Fekete, Rockstar Rising. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more because this is really, really fascinating. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today we're discussing Rockstar Rising, how to turn resilience into your superpower. And I've got Adrianne Fekete. And Adrianne, we're just going to move along because I love, love, love the energy in this show today. So you talk about you're not here to be chosen, you're here to choose yourself. How can women practically apply this mantra in their workplace or even in businesses?
so important to chat about. And I think that's a 3 or 4 part series, to be honest with
Well,
you.
you can come
But
back.
sort of just, yeah, sort of apps, I'd love to. To sum it up very quickly, and it goes back to the question that you had asked before, or sort of we left off with about failure. Failure is the only stepping stone to success. So if you can reframe and change your verbiage and change the feeling that you've put to something negative, that is so incredibly important for women because I feel a lot of the time they think, oh, rejection. And I'm like, you got rejected? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, amazing. And they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, yes, are you? And they're like, no. And I'm like, rejection's redirection. It wasn't meant for you. Not today, maybe tomorrow. Look what's behind door number two. I think it's a lot has to do with mindset and just being able to have that belief within yourself and to be able to know that regardless, and this is what the PI industry taught me, regardless. I mean, I've dealt with women and parents of missing children, infidelity, sadly, the death of children, many, many other tragedies. And they were always able to come through. They had faith and they had community and the belief in themselves that regardless of what was going to happen, that you were going to get through it and there was something better for you on the other side,
And
or
and you
different, should I say.
and you talk about mindset and resilience and community, and you've talked a lot about community here today. I know it's super, super important, but let's talk about community and helping women become unbreakable and how you've seen this in action with your I Am Unbreakable movement.
I would love to. I didn't realize the state that women were in, if I can say that just sort of very loosely, because there is such a strong sense of needing to belong. And these women have incredible partners, families, children, other friends, but there's something to be said about the intentionality of a collective that it doesn't matter what industry you're in, what position you're in, where you're going in your life. If there's a group of women, we could, geez, solve world issues collectively together. And I never knew that for the first decade or so with being in private investigation. So I really do say that the right front row sisters will applaud when nobody's, clapping, and they will get you through. Front row sisters and supporters regardless of gender. Surround yourself with a community. And I'm just going to say this one quick thing. Please go into your community servicing others. So many times people will say, well, I went to that one networking event and, I got a few cards, but nothing ever happened. It's like, well, that's not, it's all about creating relationships. I tell everybody who will listen, 100% of the time with 100% success, I have built all my businesses around creating relationships. You need to put in the time, you need to serve others. It's not self-serving. So that's super important.
I'm glad you said that too, because I always talk to people and say, I will never fail at anything because I
Mm.
surround myself with an incredible group of people. And when I don't know something, because I don't know everything, I will go ahead and talk to those people and say, help me out. What would you do in this situation? And you're right, community is super, super important. And before we go to commercial break, if you could give one piece of advice to women looking to build something legendary, regardless of obstacles, what would that be?
Do whatever's in your heart. So I know people have to support themselves, they have to do things for their family and financially, but there's 24 hours in a day. 8 hours is spent sleeping. There's a lot of time left for your 8-hour job, couple of hours left for your children and your family or whatever you do working out. There's 2 or 3 hours in every day to work on your passion project, and you will get there. Never, ever give up on your dream. Never.
Okay, we'll be right back with more Rockstar Rising with Adrianne Fekete. Don't go away. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today we're discussing Rockstar Rising, how to turn resilience into your superpower with the #1 best-selling author in Trailblazer, Adrianne Fekete. Adrianne, last segment, we have so much to talk about. I want to talk
We
about
do.
vulnerability. How has embracing vulnerability contributed to your healing journey, both in your personal life and as a mentor to others?
Well, it has contributed significantly. It's probably the one of the most difficult things for humans to do is to be vulnerable, believe it or not, and to be authentic. And the way that brands are positioning themselves now, and they should be, is the fact that people want to get to know the entrepreneur and the founder. People aren't buying into the beautiful colors and the logos, and for me, what you see is what you get. I've always been like that. And I feel like it's a really maybe one of the best qualities I feel somebody could possess is to be vulnerable in the right situation, with the right people, within the right context. And being vulnerable, I think there's such an authenticity component of that because when you're vulnerable, you're true not only to yourself, but you're true to the others listening. And you never know who's listening to, let's say, this segment or when you're speaking on a stage and the lives that you affect in a positive way. So for me, it's a gift. And I think more people should be vulnerable in the right setting and in the right way.
I agree with you. And, I had to learn vulnerability when I met my husband. And I knew
Mm.
that I had to bring all those walls down, or as my other friends had called them, the onions, the layers of onions. And I think it's
Ah,
really important for all of us to become vulnerable at some point because that's growth and that gets you to that next level.
absolutely. And it allows others to get to know you on a deeper level. It's not just the surface, it's not just the highlight reel. For me, it's just being real about, grief, loss, success, failure, growth, fear, all of those things that are really scary and we typically don't show. I think it's important so other people also feel like they're not alone because you see all these, Instagram or LinkedIn and, beside my new yacht and my new car. And, they don't show the tough times. And, you know that I've got this tatted on me, the struggle's part of the story. We need to normalize the fact that not everything is rainbows and unicorns, although I love unicorns.
Yeah. All right. So, for women that are experiencing self doubt right now or struggling to find their voice, what first step do you recommend towards reclaiming their narrative?
read Rockstar Rising or something that resonates with you, that is tangible. Don't do it alone. I've been there. It's not a great space. And I also feel that regardless of what you're trying to achieve, if you deal with your time management on a daily basis, you can achieve anything. You know, you just said something earlier too that you can do anything that you put your mind to. I really actually believe in that. I strongly recommend people to read the Jim Carrey story about him and the mask and him putting $1 million check when he was homeless in his back pocket, and doing that 1 year later he did the mask and he went, and I think it was Warner Brothers gave him that $1 million check. You know, believe in yourself and find your people, and most definitely take small tiny steps will create massive impact and massive change if that's what you want.
Okay, so before we go, finally, you coined the phrase, I am unbreakable. What does being unbreakable mean to you today? And what do you hope it'll mean to the next generation of women rising up?
I am unbreakable means that regardless of any obstacle, struggle, or situation, you're going to be okay. And it's okay not to be okay, but just know that you're going to get through anything life throws at you. And I hope that the generations that are rising and coming up have that attitude for everything that they do in their relationships, school, and in their family and in their life.
Adrianne Fekete, I loved reading your book. I have recommended it to so many of my friends. Thank you so much for coming on Empowered.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. God bless.
Adrian's three favorite words are yes, you can. And her closing words of wisdom to you are the person who defines and decides who you are. You have the power to change your script. You have the power to write a new story because whoever you believe you are, you will become. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.